Oregon, Auburn just happened. Auburn just pulled a rabbit out of a hat and joined by my buddy, Jerry Ostroski. For those of you that don't know, Jerry played for 10 years in the league. He's an All-American at the University of Tulsa. He's one of my best friends. Jerry, how you doing?
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
Good. What's going on, RJ?
What the hell did I just watch? Because this game looked like Oregon was going to win it from the start because they did not care that Bo Nix was the starter at Auburn. If anything, they loved it because they said, cool, we're going to load the box and we're going to make you throw the ball down the field. And I got beef with Gus Malzahn and not having any intermediate passes for this kid. But what'd you see?
Well, first of all, I saw Gus do what he does best. Call plays like he's got a $26 million buyout. I did see that. I can't take credit for that, RJ. I actually saw that and thought it was hilarious, but it's true. I mean, the dude's got the guy makes calls like, for instance, didn't play for the field goal, gave the true freshman the opportunity to win the game, makes the back shoulder throw. They could say he underthrew it. I thought he made a great throw on a receiver, shielded the DB. They go ahead and win. But here's the thing that's alarming to me, and we talked about it earlier today. If Cristobal wants to tell all of us how physical his football team is and how physical his offensive line is, well, then ride those dudes. Ride them. And you know what happened? When the game got tight, he went away from what he supposedly believes in. That's what I think happened. They lost that physical edge. They allowed Auburn back in, and, a couple plays later, they're trying to figure out how they just lost.
It's hard to argue with that, right? Because it wasn't like early on you had an opportunity to stop C.J. Verdell. Well, you had opportunities, you just couldn't do it. Because we were talking about that offensive line being the strength of what Oregon does on both sides of the ball, quite honestly. And it needed to be because they were without 4 of their top 5 receivers. I was a big fan of Schooler, and I get shamed for it, but I like the kid because you took a safety and you made him a wideout. That speaks volumes about what you think about, 1, your wideout core, and 2, him. But you also have this kid that everybody wants to tell me is going to be one of the first quarterbacks taken in the NFL draft. So I get that you want to throw the ball, but at the same time, Auburn can't move the ball. Like, that was what was so shocking to me is Nix is nails, but he's also a freshman because he kept trying to throw picks. He kept trying to do it because you're going, hey man, there was one on the run where you're like, hey, you can't throw that ball behind him. It's gonna get picked every time. But then what you said. But the play for me was about 1:51 left to go. Matter of fact, I was a little late getting this started because I wanted to make sure I saw what I saw, which was you call a play where he's rolled out to his right and you're flooding to the right. Cool. And then that kid took off running. And I said, oh no. And he put his knee down and he got the spot. And that basically kept them in the ball game because it's 4th and 3 at the time. And they gave him an opportunity to make plays. But I'm going, hey, if you're going to be the quarterback at Auburn, if you're going to play in these games, that's a play you got to make. And, Herbstreit was getting giddy up there because the kid didn't lose his stuff while he was basically playing for the ball game and what is the biggest game of his career.
I think the one thing that Malzahn does better than a lot of coaches, he gives his players the opportunity to believe in themselves. I don't think he gets really, really complex in what he does. He believes in what he does, and it shows. Gus was at Tulsa, and the time around him, he's an extremely confident coach. And he's one of these guys that truly believes if he's got a player with some ability, he will help them be successful. He's not scared to let kids fail either. He's not scared to fail himself. And I think it's infectious. And, how many times, prime example, I've got a ton of buddies that went to Auburn. My phone's blowing up halfway through the first quarter. The first text I get is pass the hat, meaning start raising the money.
Right.
This is the same guy that wanted him fired last year. I did notice one thing I thought was crazy. I said this to you earlier. I thought Oregon had a very significant speed advantage. I mean, early on, it looked like they were a lot quicker, a lot faster. But, one thing, it's that whole thing with Gus. He's not afraid to make mistakes. He's not afraid to lose. He's not afraid to put his kids in position to make plays. And it shows. And time again, they pull games off like this. Just when you think he's dead, he comes back to life, you know?
I don't think this speaks well for what they're going to do the rest of the season, though. Like, I wanted to think that Auburn was better than this number 16 ranking that they got, and I think, they proved that, and they covered the spread, and we all look good for picking them. But Bo Nix is 13 of 31 for 177 with 2 TDs, 2 picks. That's 42% completion percentage against an Oregon defense that is stout, right? But it ain't what they're going to face the rest of the season. And then some of that is, hey, the Pac-12 was garbage, and, well, it is, but Oregon ain't. They just ain't this number 11 ranking that they have. And I'm looking at Boobie Whitlow, and 24 rushes for 110. That's 4.6, but it ain't what C.J. Verdell was doing, which is another way of saying I was really high on the defensive line at Auburn before they started this game, and now I'm like, all right, was I a little too high? Because cool, it looked good for you guys to have 2 defensive tackles and to come out there and foot sevens and say this is what we're going to do. But if you can't beat up on Oregon defensively, what do you expect to do with the schedule that you got in the SEC?
Well, can I ask you this? And I know that one thing we differ on, I think sometimes is just, I mean, you're very, unlike me, I got a lot of conspiracy theory in me, and I got a lot of, I tend to gravitate towards the situation a little more. You're much more, I think, analytical and cut and dry. These are the guys, they're supposed to do this, they don't do this. That's the problem.
Right.
I think that you look at this situation, your first game of the season, national television, on the road, in Dallas. It was, you got a true freshman quarterback. Mm-hmm. I just think that this was a really, to me, I don't think that this means that Auburn is not the team that people maybe want them to be or thought they would be. I think this is a situation where they kind of played with what was going on, played with the situation. First game jitters, away from home, big game, freshman quarterback. They got through it, and now this will help catapult them towards, a good season. Let's face facts. We saw the records today. Missouri goes down. Tennessee goes down. SEC did not. Another thing I saw earlier I thought was dead on. If the Pac-12 teams lost the way that the SEC teams did today, people be calling for an abolishment of the conference. Drop them to the Division II. So maybe the SEC in general, we want to all claim them to be the best conference in America. Maybe they're not the best conference. Maybe Auburn's going to be okay. Hey, we all know where Daddy is. He's in Tuscaloosa, and that's what it's going to come down to. But I'm not going to go ahead and throw Auburn out just because of today. I think today was a difficult situation. Did they play well? No. Did they get through it? Yes. And I think they'll grow from it.
Oh, they ain't got a choice, Hoss. Because you made a good point because the bottom of the SEC is just as bad as we think. Tennessee loses to Georgia State. We talked about Wyoming beating up on Missouri. Wyoming being pretty good. But I'm setting that all up to say, right? We talk about Memphis beating up on Ole Miss. This Auburn squad has a very good Tulane squad on the schedule next week, dog.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody got that far ahead yet, but we might call that a trap game after what they did to Florida International earlier in the week. And now people are like, hey, RJ, Florida International, what the hell? Hey, man, that was a team that was expecting to win 10 games this year and still might. And they had a quarterback in James Morgan that's pretty good. And they were averaging 35 points a game and returning a bunch of those starters from a year ago. And Tulane put the clamps on them and then went to work on them. Auburn plays like they played against Oregon. They ain't going to get these opportunities late. I mean, that was the other part about this. A couple of these were hopes and prayers that Bo Nix threw up there. Some of that is what you got to do, but I had this conversation with my best friend just in the interim, and he was going, I'm looking at this box score, so tell me what you're seeing. He's dissecting what I'm saying, and he said, so you're telling me that Bo Nix needs to see it before he throws it? Yeah, and you and I talked about that. He says, yeah, well, he ain't going to be able to do that all season. He probably wasn't able to do that against Oregon, and he wasn't. And if your quarterback can't throw it, and it be there in this offense, yeah, Gus Malzahn can keep giving him opportunities to go make plays, but doggone it, he should have thrown 4 picks tonight, and he threw just the 2, but anybody else would have came up with those. To say nothing of the way that Pickett was playing. I mean, he looked awesome, and he was basically putting in work on these wide receivers that was supposed to be putting in work on him. So I put it to you, yeah, they're going to grow, but will they grow quick enough for it to matter? Because they're 8-5 last year. What's to stop them from catching 4 losses this year?
You're right. I mean, you're 100% correct. And the assessment you make about Gus and how he wants his quarterbacks to play is 100% correct. I remember, I believe it was Conference USA, RJ. Maybe you can refresh my memory a little bit. Conference USA Championship, 11 in the morning. It's H.A. Chapman Stadium. I think they're playing Southern Miss.
Yeah.
I believe. And they lose. And you remember there was a couple of big-time picks, and word got out afterwards that I think some signals might have been intercepted. There was some espionage. But
it got done.
Yes, it got done. But that's the thing, is because they know how Gus runs the field. He's like, look, we call this throw into this. When you see this defense, you're throwing it to him.
Right.
You're not going to read. You're not going to look at the safety. You're not going to try to move him with your eyes. You are throwing to him. Right. And they knew it, and they baited him, and he threw some big-time picks. And that, you're right. That didn't look like a on tempo, on time, Gus Malzahn offense quarterback performance. But what I will say is this: he's got guts.
Oh yeah,
you know, the old adage, a little something in his neck. And coach's kid, dad didn't play very much. I can't remember who he threw it to. He went in for Stan White, who was hurt, and threw a big-time touchdown pass when he was at Auburn. Then his kid did it again tonight. But, you expect a little bit of that out of him.
And how awesome
his lineage.
That, man. Patrick Nix in the stands with the headphones on, listen to the radio broadcast. Yeah, man. Get it, Dad. Now,
better him than me. I can't do that.
Right?
I can't do that.
Oh, my God.
Matter of fact, here's when it was. 1994, Stan White comes out, and Patrick Nix goes in, hits Frank Sanders in the back of the end zone for a win against the Gators. So there's lineage there.
So last thing I wanted to hit on was Justin Herbert was as advertised. I mean, 28, 37, 242 with a TD. Got sacked 3 times, right? A couple times in there where you're like, yo, hey, man, pull that out and go. And he put the ball on the floor because he couldn't read that mesh just correct. And we could say, hey, week 1, everybody's screwing up. There's lots of people that really should be playing better that aren't. But he only had one wide receiver out there that they really liked, right? In Johnson, 7 catches for 98 yards. What do we expect from Oregon the rest of the way? Because we know that the narrative with the Pac-12 is the same, even though Stanford came out with a win against Northwestern earlier today. What do we expect from Oregon?
Pac-12 will not be – what we've seen on a Pac-12 shouldn't shock anybody. It's not going to scare anybody. Arizona loses in Hawaii. Stanford won today, but it was typical Stanford, not very explosive. They're not going to be able to keep up with an offense like Oregon if they're scoring.
Right.
Washington State's playing right now, is doing fine, but USC's playing a weak Fresno team. So you look at the Pac-12, not all that great, but I'm expecting them to roll pretty good.
Right.
I wouldn't expect much of a opposition out of them. My biggest thing with Oregon is I think, again, sometimes coaches get too cute. And if you want to preach to us and you want to tell us that you are, but it's also, how many times you heard about them, the physical, right? Well, let me ask you this. Sometimes do you not think that if a guy continues to say it over and over and over again, maybe he's trying to make himself believe it?
Some of that. I also get that Cristobal is the rare offensive line coach who gets to be head coach. And knowing you, what do you want out of your football team more than anything else?
We're going to be physical and tough.
Right. So, we made fun of Brady Hoke for saying that when he was at Michigan. They weren't very good. I think that's just part of the DNA, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that he's overselling it. I think it's just what he believes. Right? Harbaugh, when he got to Michigan, Brett Bielema, when he got to Arkansas. It's just what they want to do. And I get Harbaugh's a quarterback, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, I want to roll up my sleeves and I want to go to work on people. That's what I want to do. Whereas Malzahn, like Briles, wants to run his system. And when folks talk about system quarterbacks, they're really talking about 2 offenses, right? They're talking about whatever Malzahn runs and whatever a Briles runs. And Montgomery is in that tree as well. It's just, we're going to do this. No matter what, we're going to do this. And when it works, it works. When it doesn't, it doesn't. So in thinking about the Pac-12, I really want Utah to be there at the end going up against an Oregon squad or Washington squad. Utah's my pick, but that's also because they play defense and they run the ball, and I trust Zach.
Utah's rugged, man.
Yeah.
They're rugged.
Yeah. And I love the way that Kyle Whittingham goes about his business, right?
Yep.
And you walked into your alma mater, your rival, like the Holy War, and you handed them an L. Going, all right. And Arizona State, the good teams in the Pac-12 are the teams nobody wants to succeed. Like, everybody wants USC and UCLA to be good so badly. While I'm looking at Arizona State, I'm looking at Utah, I'm looking at Washington, who never gets really that much play. I'm going, you know what? Those teams might be decent. Y'all might want to ride those teams. I'm like, no, nobody trusts Herm Edwards. Really? Because he ran out of true freshman quarterback today, too, and got a win. Think about that. The two guys that are getting made fun of the most, Mac Brown, Herm Edwards, run out true freshman quarterbacks this year. Both get W's. Goodness. Like, when's the last time we could say that true freshman quarterbacks rolled out week 1 and suffered what, 1 loss?
Yep.
Because you got Bachmeier walked into Doak Campbell, got a win.
Yep.
That shocked the heck out of me. Sam Howell went up against Will Muschamp, South Carolina, got a win. Just keep going down the board, and I'm going, what am I missing here? Because I saw these kids, and I liked all these kids. And these kids, like, the book on these kids was that there wasn't a 5-star quarterback in there. And then Rattler went and got it, and I think Nix went and got it as well because he's number 2 guy.
Yeah, Nix got it.
Okay, so nobody was there for it. Nobody was there for this class. Everybody's like, no, it's the 2018 class or nothing. It's the 2020 class or nothing. And yet all these kids did was walk out there and win games. And you talk about having a little something in your neck. Yo, man, tell me which one of these kids didn't show up to play.
I know. It's a different day and age. Quarterbacks are coming out of high school much more prepared to play. Quarterback coaching obviously is going to another level. All these kids, a lot of them have been in big-time high school programs. They've felt pressure. They've been in big games. And stuff like this isn't that big anymore. The day and age of having the red shirt everybody, that's out the window. I remember Les at LSU never redshirted anybody. and they asked him, well, Les, why would you not redshirt somebody, to help develop them? And Les' comment was, look, man, if they're that good, they're going to leave in 3 years anyway. And if they're not leaving in 3 years, then I don't want them here next year anyway. So we're not redshirting anybody. They're either gone in 3 or we get rid of the guys who can't play in 4.
Amen.
But it's true.
And
it's the truth.
That works in, like, it's just, we understand that at every position except quarterback. We're terrified at quarterback, right? Because you need some seasoning, you need some time. Because normally you would let Bo Nix sit for at least a year, right? At minimum. But that just ain't what it needs to be anymore. I mean, I guess everybody is riding Bachmeier now, and should be, because it's not just the stats. It's that I watched him stand in there and get his butt kicked, and he kept going after Florida State. He just kept going. I'm not used to seeing that from an 18-year-old kid playing quarterback. They fold. Like, they fold. That's just what they do. And yet now you got kids that are going out there like Bo Nix and going, nah, it's cool. I missed that one. I'll make the next one. I missed that one. I'll make the next one. You know what? 4th and 3, I don't care. I'll take off. I'll go diving head first. What? And all of a sudden, I'm excited about football again, man. I want to give you the last word. What was your take from the weekend?
My take from the weekend is exactly what you talked about as far as young kids making plays. But the other thing that I saw that was to me, I don't know if you want to say alarming. To some, it might have been alarming. To others, like me, it was pretty awesome. There were a lot of FCS programs out there that gave Division I teams hell this week.
Amen.
A bunch of them.
Amen.
And I know that I've turned into FCS Jerry if I could have everybody wants to have a caller name. So we're going to go back to the caller game, and we're going to take 52 phone calls to show. FCS Jerry calls in today. Because you know what, I think it's awesome that those kids get the opportunity to compete on a big stage as well. And the best thing about it is there's a lot of them that not only took teams to the brink, but there's a lot of them that won. I think it's pretty awesome.
You want to call South Dakota State getting into Nebraska next week with a win?
Man, I don't know if I can go that far.
Okay.
And State for the win.
Okay.
But they're going. See, but you went at you went at me a little bit on that one because you know how much I want Scott Frost to succeed. And I want Nebraska to be good again.
Right.
But here's the question for you. I'm going to ask you a question.
All right.
You know the last word, but I know we're probably going along.
Okay.
I get you on these post games and these analysis deals, and I get to ask you some questions. This is hard to keep you down sometimes, man. You're always moving. But my question to you is Stillwater.
Mm.
I understand that Oregon State was not a great football team, but you talk about the poise of 18-year-olds, the poise of young kids.
Yep.
Did Spencer Sanders show you that yesterday in that victory? Yes, everybody's talking about the defense or lack thereof. Do you think Spencer is going to be a kid that Oklahoma State can count on for the next so many?
I think they got this year and next year, and then he's gone. He's that good. We knew Tylen was good, right? We knew Chuba was good. We had reservations about quarterbacks because Gundy kept telling us that he was going to play two. Turns out he was lying to us. Now, on the one hand, you could say he always knew Spencer Sanders was going to be the guy. On the other hand, you could say, I'm going to start Spencer, and if he doesn't look like he can play, Drew's in for the next series. And
Right.
Sanders never gave Drew an opportunity to get on the field because he was outstanding throwing the ball, and he was outstanding running the ball. And you have to be able to run the ball in Gundy's offense as a quarterback. You got to be able to do it. Like you and I, we were on this thing about TU and Michigan State and whatnot. But one of the Taylor Cornelius ran the ball more than the running backs did, or just about as much as they did last year. And we all know that Taylor Cornelius can't move. And when I saw that Spencer Sanders could move and not just move, but make good decisions as to when to move, I genuinely believe Oklahoma State has the most fun triplets in college football right now. Like it's that much fun. But that ain't ever been the problem with them, right? I mean, Charlie Dickey's got that offensive line going as well, and that's an underselling. That's an under. I do this on the show on Monday because I'm doing the show on Labor Day. But Charlie Dickey put that offensive line in a position where they could take advantage of Chuba Hubbard and Spencer Sanders' ability to run because they both had over 100 yards on the ground, right? I think Chuba had 200. So that, in and of itself, puts them in contention to win 10 games this year. Now it's about, can Jim Knowles get something fixed on that defense? Because, it's a concern, man. I mean, Oregon State is Pac-12 Kansas, is Big Ten Rutgers. They ain't good. You can't give up 36 to that team. You can't. You can't give up 9 catches for 170 yards to Isaiah Hodgkin. You can't give up all this yardage to Jamar Jefferson. You got to figure out a way to put the clamps on him. I understand Calvin Bundy's got his back hurt, but he didn't do much last year anyway. Malcolm Rodriguez was the kid. Give it up for another Oklahoma kid, Wagner, state champ wrestler. So watching those wide receivers run rampant on those corners that I thought were going to be really good concerns me. So we'll see. I think people want to talk about the quarterback situation because it's sexy. But getting that offensive line correct and getting Dickey on your staff was the best thing Gundy did all offseason. Just period. Now, can he get Jim Knowles some help? Because he ain't figuring it out. Or at least he ain't figured it out against Oregon State.
I'm going to give you some homework.
Okay.
Best cornerback in the state of Oklahoma.
All right.
Is at 11th and Harvard.
All right.
And his name's Allie Green.
All right. Let me see him go against somebody who's going to throw the ball his direction. That's what I'm saying.
We're
going to find out. Oh yeah. No, you're right. But I'm just saying, you get Wyoming. let's see what you got, young blood.
Got Oklahoma State, then we got Wyoming.
Oh, that's right. I got them flipped. My bad. I got them flipped.
We got San Jose State this week.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma State at home, then Wyoming.
Man. Ooh, yeah. All right. I'm going to go watch some tape, Jerry. You go to bed. I appreciate you staying up to do this and thank you for bearing with me as I wanted to go back through and make sure I saw what I saw, because the last thing I want to do is get on this channel and say something that didn't happen.
No problem, man. Always fun.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.